tape on. So
Okay.
flip it around.
So these mics are already open.
Yeah.
Go guys.
Okay.
Got it. Happiness. Let's do the shoes now. Thank you. How's it, guys? How are you doing? I don't know about that, but I'm doing something with this mic. Ntombi, how are you doing? I'm good. Yes, I remember. And you're doing, I think, the next Leaders Walk, if I'm not wrong. Is it on the 10th of May? That's the one. See, already. Hi, Michael. How are you doing? Lovely to meet you. Ntombi. Awesome. Lovely to meet you. Can I get my high heels behind you? Thank you.
You gotta headbutt the disc. You don't have a fusion underneath like this. Black bag. Yeah, that's a black bag.
What is she doing? Can't be that bad. She knows you've got this. She knows you've
Are
got
you ready to be
this.
mic'd up?
Okie dokie.
You can mic drum doing an introduction first.
Yeah, so your handheld is over there.
Just delayed. I'm like, what am I doing?
Where's Carl?
She went
That way.
that way from where
See, this is why I didn't want to wear these shoes now.
Yeah, other lady also got stuck in.
Yeah. Trying to be very careful.
Don't take shoes off, yeah, so
Yeah.
walk in there.
Okay,
Are we ready?
And then I'm going to hand
Okay,
over
cool.
to you.
Thanks, babes.
You see that one? That's only to mic her.
Guys, is there a particular way you want us to sit? Any particular way? Are you that side, Carl? Okay, cool.
Maybe zoom the camera in a little.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
just be on standby. Thank you.
That's fine. There's one camera, so we're looking that way, right? Right, cool.
You need to give me a couple of seconds. I just make sure that
Okay.
it spins up.
Okay.
You want to start spinning it up now?
Yes,
Or you
yeah.
wanna be seated and then start spinning.
Hi,
No, it's
guys.
fine. I'm
How's
going
it?
to
How's
seat
it?
now, so it's
Good,
fine.
thanks, guys.
So I'm going to move the cable out of sight. There we go.
Thank you. Thanks. Thanks.
Yeah, the gentle rain we can deal with, eh?
Yeah.
We can deal with. And it looks so pretty. You are loved, Carl, hey?
Yeah.
You are really loved.
Yeah.
People came out for you.
Just remember to acknowledge the people on streaming online.
Okay, do
Okay.
we know who's online?
No, there's about 150 people.
From South Africa or where?
Don't know.
Okay.
I think some of the guys from up in Africa would have as
Okay.
well. Yeah.
So acknowledge the people online. Malcolm said he's going to start by saying a few
Yes.
words.
Yeah.
Paul, remember, I'm going to say the why, and then I'm going to make my comments on the book, and
Hello,
then I'm going to hand over
hello.
to you to tell your
Everybody
story.
hear
me?
Then we go back to the book
Okay.
again.
That's fine.
Everybody, welcome to the Larson residence. For those of you who are here for the first time, welcome. For those of you who are here and you've been here before, we've obviously forgiven you. Welcome to the launch of Colleen's book, Gender Matters. a long time in the making, but she's finally made it. I was going to, in actual fact, I say the launch. It was going to be the launch, and now it is the first launch because we're doing a launch in Cape Town now, sometime in June. So see, she's already getting around. Just there is no itinerary for tonight. Cole and Tom B are going to be having a chat just now. And then the idea is that we're going to finish round about 9 o'clock. At least that's what I thought. Because we had the guys come in doing the decor. We had the guys... Hey. They can hear you calling the dog.
I'm trying to get it into behave.
The joys of doing a book launch from home. So we intend to finish at 9 o'clock, but that's what I thought, because we had the guys delivering all of the decor, and then we had the guys delivering the flowers, and then a truck went past with a load of beds. So I thought, well, maybe we're having a sleep-in. And my wife hasn't told me. So welcome to you all. The thank yous. Thank you to everybody for being here tonight. Thank you to Valentino for assisting with the book from start to finish. Thank you to Ntombi for agreeing to chat with Cole. Thank you to Unlimited for the decor. Those of you who know Business Engage and have been to the Gender Mainstreaming Awards, you're sitting on the same seats. They do the Gender Mainstreaming Awards. Thanks tonight for Stefan. You can't see him. He's behind the screen there, who's doing the sound for tonight. And you're there. And again, if anybody who has seen the work that we do from the studios, we do it from the Eventcast studios, and these are the same guys from the studios. So thank you to everybody who's been involved, and thank you to our neighbour for the other flowers, because our neighbour just happens to be a florist, which actually works out quite well. So thank you to everybody. Cole is just going to have a conversation. She's not going to have a talk. She's going to have a conversation with Dr. Ntombi Ngwane, who is not only somebody that we do a lot of work with, but is a great friend of Colleen's. And she must tell you the story about her bombs together. What was it? The bombs together. So she'll tell you that story before she even starts. So, Ntombi, over to you for a conversation on gender matters. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Malcolm. Thank you very much. I must tell you, this is the nicest Malcolm has ever been to me. Nicest. It's okay, ladies. Hobble along. Well, good evening and welcome to all the friends and family who are with us today. I say family because the one thing I've learned about Colleen is when you start doing business with her, when you start doing work with her, you become a friend, you become family. And let's not lie, when you invite people into your home, they are family. So thank you all for joining us tonight. I am especially honored to have been asked by Colleen to actually lead this conversation with her as well. As Malcolm has said, I am Dr. Ntombi Ngwane. And Colleen said, you've got to explain why you're here. So let me tell you why I was chosen and why you were not chosen. So honestly, I am a proud and very brave, confident, outspoken Dr. Auntie Babes to about 10 nephews and nieces. If there's anything I make sure my nephews and nieces know about me, is the power that women have to change the world. And what you need to understand is I don't have the conversation with just the girls in the family. I have the conversations with my nephews and my nieces. I believe I have a responsibility, given the position I am in, to educate them on how to use their voice, understand their power, work the corporate system, and also understand how they climb the ladder. Colleen calls it the slippery ladder. And it is indeed a slippery ladder. I am also a very passionate advocate for women. I believe my purpose, and that I live every day, is that I am here in this world to lift as I rise. I've been given many opportunities, I've been exposed, I've been given coaching, I've met people who've believed in me, who've sponsored me, who've mentored me, and it is now my turn to give back. And I give back all the way from grassroots level all the way up to corporate. I'm one of those executives who's not worried if you have my mobile number. I don't mind if you call me. I don't mind if you knock on my door. I literally live and believe in an open door policy, particularly for women, because I believe they need to be able to have access to role models who can listen to them, who can guide them, who can coach them. Because often when they see people at the top and executives at the top, the assumption is it was an easy way to the top. You must have been born with a silver spoon in your mouth, which is not necessarily the case. And I am a big storyteller. So all I do when I speak to people, men and women around me, my circle of influence, I tell stories. I am a storyteller, and I thank God for blessing me with this man in my throat, because when this man in my throat begins to speak, everybody just listens. So I'm here to really unpack the journey that Carl has been through. And let me tell you, I've had the opportunity and the blessing to have been sent this book. Now, Colleen sent me this book to read via WhatsApp a couple of months back. Guys, I'm not an online reader on my phone. It doesn't work for me, right? So I went and I had the book printed, and I was like, oh my God, didn't know it was this big. So I had the opportunity to read it. I hope I don't get emotional about telling you my views about it. First of all, you need to know that I am a speaker that goes and travels to many organizations and corporates talking about gender, inclusion, diversity, equity, women, the business case for us getting to equal. I do that all the time. And I also do it for free because I believe that's my purpose. One of the things I need to do when I present is I do research around what are the stats for equality, what is happening in South Africa, what's happening around the world, what are the trends we are seeing, what do women need to be doing to make sure they are moving up the ladder, etc. And this book, ladies and gentlemen, has become my latest and newest encyclopedia. This is what this book does. This book has gone into detail around where we are at with equality. When did it start? The history, the Burn Your Bra movement in Beijing. It looks at the inquiries, the forums, the investigations conducted in Europe, UK, South Africa. It looks at the law, it looks at the policy. If you're looking for the latest gender stats because you're still quoting 2012, you need to use this book. But what also moved me about this book is, and I said to Colleen, I need to decide if I give my nephews and nieces this book now or later. Because not only is it relevant for people who are in the working environment, but if you are trying to build a generation of young girls and women who understand their role, you need to give them this book. It is never too late for us to start changing behaviors from a young age, and also allowing them to go into university and also from university into the corporate world, understanding the rules. Many of us have gone into corporates and we've figured it out. We've made mistakes, we've fallen there, we've cried, we've resigned in a half saying, they don't appreciate me. You need to prepare our young girls and boys, and this book will get those behaviors in check. So I, like I said, was the lucky one, as you can see. I'm very passionate about this book and what it does. And as you can see, my buddy is as well. So I'd like to maybe now hand over to Colleen, because there are a few of us who know Colleen, but you may not know her story. But before I allow Colleen to speak, I'm going to, like Malcolm said, talk about how we met. And actually, how we met is at our Pilates studio. Claire,
Claire's
wave
fault.
your hand. Wave your hand. Everybody, this is Claire, and Claire is somebody Colleen and I love very deeply. Colleen runs a Pilates studio in
Claire.
Lone Hill.
Claire.
Claire.
I
Yes,
don't.
Claire. Claire runs a Pilates studio in Lone Hill. And for those of you who have started to experience the 40-plus crackle of the bones and the knees, Claire will sort you out. So I was at Pilates one Saturday morning, and Colleen was there, and as usual, we're exercising, we're doing particular exercises, but at this particular point in time, it was that exercise where you are lifting the ass, lifting the bum, and really tightening it. And Colleen is telling a story, as I do this exercise, about how she's trying to get a hold of this woman at Accenture. She leads the women's forum, and she's being sent from pillar to post. And as I lift and squeeze, I'm thinking she's looking for me. And she doesn't even know it. She doesn't even know it. She's saying terrible things, and I am the woman she's looking for. So, needless to say, I told her the truth after that session that I am the woman you are looking for. Yes, I will set up a date and we will meet. And as they say, the rest is history. Carl, over to you.
Thanks so much, Ntombi. And really, I want to appreciate everyone for being here tonight. Okay, let me get myself together. So, similar story. So when I was growing up, I think especially younger kids, as Ntombi says, we should actually start when we are really young. When I was growing up, I didn't know anything about purpose, your passion, following your passion, leading a fulfilled life or anything like that. All I knew was you finish your studies, you get a job, and you make money. That was what I was brought up to believe. So I went through quite a bit of a career. I started off in teaching, and from teaching went to into secretarial work, and then until I actually went for an interview one day, and they said, "Can you type?" And I said, "No, I can't. I can't even switch the computer on." And got out of secretarial into marketing, sales marketing, and then eventually ended up in the financial services industry. In 2005, I woke up thinking one of the key aspects why women, and especially women entrepreneurs, fail is the lack of financial literacy and the lack of access to finance. With my background in financial services, I woke up thinking, why are you not doing something about it? And I started what I thought was going to be my hobby. And I started these groups of women coming together to do financial literacy training. And I was doing this while I was growing my financial services career. The universe obviously had some other thing in mind for me, because in 2011, government published the Women Empowerment and Gender Equality Bill. And I was asked to represent Business Unity South Africa, which, for those of you that don't know, it's an employer organization. And I was asked to represent them at NEDLAC as one of the negotiators. I realized then that with my full background in the corporate environment, that corporates would not do gender unless it made business sense to them. No matter how much we think they do it because it's the right thing to do, or they will come along for the ride, unless you can actually show them what's in it for them in the bottom line, they're not going to come along for the journey. I then had this quandary: grow my financial services career or do this? Grow my financial services career. And well, I decided to do Business Engage full-time. And the whole thing was this inspiration to drive gender mainstreaming in corporates across Africa. I was of that opinion. You know, when you work in a corporate environment and you have all those wonderful budgets that you have to do things and the marketing and everything, and I thought I was going to revolutionize this world. I was going to have all the corporates flocking to me, and we were going to have great success. By this stage, bear in mind, I'd given up my financial services career. And it became so busy, Malcolm gave his career up, and we were doing this together. So as a family with 2 kids, both at school, a bond to pay, 0 income, it was really perhaps 2 of the most difficult times of my whole entire life. I got a call during this time to go to ARG, which was my background in the financial services industry, and they said, come, Cole, we've got a position up in Africa for you. And I walked in, I thought, oh, nice car. Oh, you know, that corner office, you know, that salary, you know what I could do with it. And after 10 minutes in Tombi, I turned around and said, I cannot go back. I got up from the interview. Bear in mind now, everybody was thinking, I've lost it. You know, the 2 years, she's really got a screw loose. I walked in the door at home, and the first thing my brother said to me as I walked in the door, he said, so did you take the job? And I said, no. He said, Cole, are you nuts? Do you know what the share price is of ARG? Do you know? I said, I know all of that, but I know that I'm in the right place. And so often, you know, when by that stage, I'd really found my purpose and what I was cut out to be. And yes, there was no financial income. Well, I mean, we're still in the same house. Our kids have gone through school. And so when you find your purpose, you know, things show up for you in the most amazing ways. And so it was that courage to actually press on. And 2 years later, we got our first corporate, and yeah, we've grown it since then. So I lived my life by 2 simple philosophies. And as I said, they're very simple, and some people might think I'm totally naive. But through my life, I've learned 2 simple lessons that have got us through some very deep water. And number 1 is I don't believe we were put on this earth to fail. And if we are going through a challenge, we've got the answers, we just have to look for them. My second simple philosophy is that you always will always have the answers, and you will never be put to a test that you cannot overcome. So that's the start of my journey.
Cole, I want to personally thank you for putting together this book. When I see how much effort has gone into the stats, the information, also the experience you have having worked with different organizations and different leaders, and the advice you're giving practical advice, and I guess that's why it's called a practical guide and a response to what people need to do to be able to achieve. And you can see once you read the book that a lot of effort has gone into it and years of research and experience. Like I said, I think you should register it for a PhD and might as well get the red card. This is how much I believe in the data that's gone in there. So, I mean, Cole, you've obviously spent, in the book, you do talk about how we need to challenge the narrative and challenge the conversation. Because everybody understands the business case around it makes business sense for you to be introducing and understanding gender mainstreaming. And thanks for giving that crystal clear definition of what we mean by gender mainstreaming in the book. Why do you think, despite the stories, the facts, the research, the proof points, the case studies, why is it that we are not making the strides that we would be hoping to make? And what do you believe? How do we change the narrative? And what do you mean when we say we need to change the narrative to be able to move forward?
Yeah, so very importantly, in Ntombi, if you look at the audience over here, I don't only have women over here tonight. I think we have made it a women's issue, not a business issue. And that goes down to very much women, because we've got into our groups of women and we've spoken about what is wrong, what hasn't happened, how it hasn't happened, why. And we constantly do that. And then we walk into the work environments and we think, well, the men will just understand what we are talking about, number one. Number two, I think, especially in terms of the stories we put out in terms of what women are achieving. Once again, 2 days ago, I got an email from one of our colleagues, and she was talking about the CEO of YouTube stepping down and how terrible it was because there's so many women stepping down. And I looked at her and I said, she's been at that helm for 12 years. What is wrong with a woman after giving 12 years of her life turning around and saying, you know what, I want to go and spend more time with my family? The true thing is that we don't address the right issues. So the real issue is that we haven't told the stories about the number of women that are out there to take those positions. And so what happens is we expect somebody else to know the woman that is ready to step into the role, but we haven't told their stories. So it's no wonder that when you go into a corporate and you say you should really be looking at women for these positions, that they turn around and say, well, women aren't available. So very much, number one, is the involvement of men, not as just a nice to have, but as allies. Because essentially, I think what we've got to do is we've got to get to this thing of talking about people. It's not about men and women. Because I strongly believe that men and women have got masculine and feminine qualities. And so if we constantly talk about men, women, LGBTQ, this, that, the next, whatever the other letters are on the end now, we are creating divides. And that is where things are going wrong, is we're not collaborating, we're not telling stories, we're not bringing the right people together, and we're telling the wrong narrative.
So what frustration or what were you seeing that led you to writing the books, aside from what you've just told us? Why did you write this book?
Because I am tired of, well, first of all, my passion is about making Africa the gender hub from which we export stories. So that is the journey. So many people have said to me, but what about this international thing? I'm not going international, I'm going Africa. Because I'm so tired of when we talk about success, we talk about what's happened in the UK or United States. We don't talk about the African continent and what success we are having on the African continent. So for me, that is my passion, is to showcase Africa. And you will actually see in the book, I quote a number of senior leaders from Africa, not the rest of the world, from Africa. When you're looking at senior leaders, we can talk about the Warren Buffetts, we can talk about Helena Morrissey from the UK, we can talk about all of these people from international, but on the African continent, we've got the most amazing people. So that's what I wanted to showcase. Number two, I wanted to put the stats in a position that they are not negative. Because we always take stats and we read into it what we think, not what we know. And so I wanted to showcase the stats and showcase, even if we look at women and where women are going wrong. There was a study that was done on women and how they're showing up in the workplace, and that actually about 70% of women are languishing. But then they talk about 68% of men languishing. But we never talk about that. We always talk about the negative stats of women. So I wanted to position the stats in their true sense. And number three, I wanted to challenge the fact that we don't have women that are ready for those positions. Because essentially, there are so many women, and if we just actually take younger women as well, and we build this pipeline of mentors, role models throughout the ladder, we will have the success we are looking for. My last point was, I look at the World Economic Forum, and they are now talking about 135 years to get to parity. I won't be here in 135 years. I don't know who else is going to be here. So it might not be in my time, But I want to make change in my time, even if it's for the next generation or the generations to come. And if I can impart the knowledge from umpteen dozen role models who I've cited in the book, and tips and tools and things that they use, and to actually showcase those stories, we can make a difference. And as I said, we can cut that period short. But I'm so tired of all the negative, I wanted to show the positive of where we're going.
Thank you, Carl. I think we can give a round of applause for this. Absolutely. Now, Carl, I love you painting the picture of why you wrote the book, the importance of including men in the conversation. But there's a chapter wherein you say you love quotas, but they don't exactly work. So what are you saying about quotas, and what's your position? And there are beautiful case studies that you speak about in Norway, in Iceland, Ireland. So just tell us what your position is on quotas.
Yeah. So, I mean, Viviane Reddy, the EU commissioner, she said that she hates quotas, but she loves what they do. And that's the premise from where we can start. So I don't know if Police was here. I haven't seen Police come in from the JSC, but Palmi is here from the IOD. The reality is that you need regulation or legislation to start the conversation. But companies will not go any further than what they have to if they are just living up to legislation or regulations. So that is why you will find in 2003, it was the first time that Norway's government got involved in setting quotas, and they set a 40% quota. And the reality was that if you did not adhere to 40% women on boards, you could get deregistered. If you look at Norway, they haven't gone past the 40%. And that's the problem, is if you're just doing it because the quotas or targets, you're doing it for the wrong reason. You're not doing it because it's part of the DNA of the organization. And it means that for you, it makes business sense. You're doing it because you're ticking the box. And that's why I'm saying it's not that I hate quotas, but you cannot do quotas without that DNA being sorted out as well.
Absolutely. And I think a story that maybe unpacks it is when you talk about, when you connect the dots around quotas, connect the dots around the role men can bring, and also the power of women, and how that inclusion and diversity comes together to benefit the organization. And you had a beautiful case study on, is it IKEA?
IKEA, yes, I love that case study. So everybody knows IKEA, the furniture brand. So they were established, I think, in 1943, 1945. And so very, very successful brand where men had got into the point where they were packaged, and so you would order online, you would get your package, it would give you instructions, and everything was fantastic. They were one of the biggest brands in furniture. In 1985, women started becoming part of IKEA in their board, and they started saying, you know, most of our target audience are women buying this furniture. And women don't want to get the packaged goods and get the husband to unpack it to find out that it's not quite what they were looking for. And so they said, why don't we start some stores where we can actually position the furniture, allow the mothers to come in and the women to come in to feel and touch and see and whatnot. And they said, well, okay, well, let's try it. That was an example of men and women creating the most phenomenal brand. Because it took, men had started it, but it took the women together with the men to come up with a brand that is so successful today. And my guess is if the men had have left it, they perhaps would have dwindled out a little bit. But because the women had their say and they gave the input, it's one of the biggest brands.
Carl, you went as far as saying that women have fears. I'm sure a lot of the ladies sitting here would not believe you if they say they have fears. What have you seen in your work in what you do as Business Engage? What are these fears you're talking about? And how are you seriously suggesting that things around sponsorship, mentorship, coaching, the 3 ships, the 3 C's? Colleen talks about 3 C's and the 3 ships. And the 3 C's are competition,
Collaboration, competition.
and competition.
But
And you
you cannot-
added a 4th one, which was
is
competence.
competence, yeah.
And then you also talk about the 3 ships, which is mentorship, sponsorship,
relationships.
and relationships as well. Let's talk about these fears and how you believe the 3 C's and the 3 ships would possibly address that. Are they addressing that?
Yeah, very much so. You know, I talk in the book about accepted barriers, and those are the most difficult barriers to get rid of in terms of women development, because it's things that perhaps the woman hasn't even experienced, but others have, and others relay the story. And so the women coming through generations have not really experienced it, but they believe it. And it's become ingrained in that. And if a senior woman says, I've experienced A, B, and C, well, it must be right. It's not, well, I'm bringing my skills, my journey, what I bring to the party, my character, whatever experience I've been through. It's, well, she said it, so it must be there. So I think that is definitely one of the biggest barriers to women. I think also the fact that because of those accepted barriers, it makes us show up in a way that we think that it's our lot. So we must just take what gets given to us. And I was in Malawi, and I always tell the story because it really hits home, you know, what women have done over many, many years. And I don't say there aren't issues. There are definitely issues. All I'm saying is that we've made it a male-female issue. And if we actually take away the fact that it's male, female, and we show up as people, you will find as many men that are there to get women down, there's as many men that are there to support. And as many women that are there to support others, there's as many women at the top that don't want you to get there. So it's about people and how you've shown up. And so I was in Malawi, and we were talking about networking, and the ladies were saying, you know, I can't go network. I've got to go home. I've got to go and cook. I've got to go and clean. I've got to go and look after the kids. I've got to go and look after. And I said, have you ever gone home to your husband and spouse and said to them, I'm going to a networking event tonight. The kids would love you to take them to McDonald's. Oh, we wouldn't do that. I said, why? They said, because he'd say no. I said, how do you know? You haven't even asked. And then also, I was in an audience one day, and a lady turned around and said, we must get more women involved because they've got the EQ. And I'm saying, what are you saying? Men don't have EQ. And that's the problem, is we listen to the wrong narrative. And so for me, in terms of doing the 3 C's, is first of all, is men and women don't have different objectives. It's just how we get there. That's a little bit different. But we've both got objectives to make business effective. The men have always done it the way they've done it because they started off in the industrial revolution, and it was all industrial, and how they had to package things and how they had to do things. They learned how to do certain things. Women show up as collaborators. We want to make sure that everybody's involved and everybody's included in that. But at the end of the day, we still get to the same point of where we get to when we bring men and women together. Understanding that you cannot do it on your own allows you to bring together a team, a collaborative team that allows you to be seen as very, very effective, that you are not showing up just as yourself. You're showing up with a team that makes you really powerful. And as long as you can delegate your team and you can communicate effectively, they're going to be there for you, whether it's a group of women, whether it's a group of men, whatever your team is. And I must mention what we normally talk about is the boys' club. I say to women, that's another thing that is totally wrong in terms of the way we look at things. If I'm a male that knows that the group that I've brought together effectively in the past has been a group of men, because all they know is the men that have always supported them. I'm going to bring together a group of men. If I'm a woman that knows if I bring together a group of men and women, it's going to work, well, that's how I'm going to lead. So it really is about those boys' club. It's not so bad after all. It's the fact that women feel that they are totally excluded. And so I believe that from a collaboration perspective, as long as we don't male bash, we will find that there will be opportunity where men will invite us into those circles. But they're not going to do it if they are constantly spoken down and, oh, well, that's what you normally do. Well, if that's what you think I'm going to do, well, I'm going to do it anyway. And so from a competitive perspective, if you're looking to grow your career, and that's where we've got the collaboration, we've got the competition. If you are wanting to get to the top, and you've got a strong team around you that is supporting you, guiding you, getting you to the top, that competition is not going to be able to succeed, because they know that you are effective and you have got what it takes in order to get there. You've got your support structure. You're not trying to do it on your own. So many people say it's lonely at the top. It's not lonely as long as you've got your support structure together. So in terms of competence, you know, we always talk about, first of all, confidence. You know, I always say you can be confidently incompetent. So, you know, confidence, we always in our structures talk about confidence. And really, if you're not confident, then don't even think about growing your career. You know, find a mentor, find a sponsor that's going to help you through that, and who's going to guide you and give you those tips. And as you said, there's lots of tips in my book, but we always talk about the women that aren't there to help others up. There are umpteen thousand women who are there to support others that are growing the career. It takes picking up the phone and saying, guys, I'm really struggling. Will you give me help? Even in terms of our Leaders Walk events and boardwalk events that we run, women find it very difficult to walk into an environment like this and, you know, they walk in and say, somebody please talk, you know, smile at me, I don't know who to talk to, unless most of the people know each other over here. But in our leaders walks and boardwalks, that's why we invite them, because in your smaller groups, you become confident to go up and talk to somebody else, and it builds that confidence. So confidence is great as long as you are showing up. And this thing of faking it till you make it, I don't believe in it. Okay. It's an absolute fallacy, all right, because then you're not being authentic.
Correct.
Okay, so you can only be confident if you're authentic in yourself. And when you speak, you must speak from that thing of, I'm speaking because I know what I want, I know where I'm going to, and I've got what it takes to get to the top. They always talk about, you know, so for instance, if you're going for a CEO position and you assume that role, don't assume it. You are the CEO.
Yes.
Be the CEO. You know, don't assume that you're going to get there and so whatever. Be that CEO. Show up. And that's why I say competence. You cannot do all of those three. If you do all of those three and build your networks and bring your sponsors and your mentors and all this confidence and your support structure together, you will have the competence you need to get to the top. And that is very important. You cannot leave that competence out.
And you know, Carl, the one thing I want to echo that you've mentioned in a roundabout way is when you are starting this journey to change the current status quo, it's not going to be easy. It is going to be difficult and people will challenge you, and the men aren't going to automatically say, well, welcome.
Well,
it would be nice if they would,
yeah.
but that's not always the response.
No.
But what I have personally found in my journey is, one, the power of coaching. Mm-hmm. I have worked with an executive coach for 11 years, and it has really delivered the results for me. I absolutely believe in coaching. But what I've also found is some very painful and unpleasant experiences in corporates which came as a result of other women, accusations, unnecessary drama, etc. And often when you're going through these painful experiences, you're like, why are women doing this to each other? But actually, when I look back, I'm so grateful for every single painful experience because so much good came out of it. When I was going through it, I was saying, Bra God has given up on me. Bra God's written me off. But I tell you, when you now look at the lessons that come out of that very painful experience around how you've grown, the fact that you had to build relationships, the fact that you had to actually stand up, be a brand for people to understand why things are happening the way they are as well. So I absolutely agree and understood and could resonate with all of the tips in your book. But we have some people who are in it for the money. And you have a chapter, I think it's a chapter
Stuck
towards
on the money.
the end that says you're stuck on the money. So when I got to this chapter, I was like, what is Colleen saying? People are doing it for the money, and you're right. When you do it for the money, it doesn't last very long.
Yeah.
Because people can tell you can't do the job, and you're in it for the money. So what was your thinking when you were talking about stuck on the money?
Oh, and Tommy, there's nothing wrong with reaching for the stars and for reaching for extra money and to better your families and all the rest of it. The problem is when you do it just because of that, just because of the money. And, you know, often I hear women turn around saying, well, if only I was the CEO, or if only I was the CEO, or if only I was that person or whatever. And they actually, when that position presents itself, they go for it just because of the money. It's not what they want. It's not what they're working on. It's not their vision. It's not getting them to their purpose. It's not what they're aiming for. It's not where they're meant to be. It's not where they've got the skills. They are just taking it because it means a pay rise. It doesn't bode well for your time span in that environment. What women also need to be very careful of is often we are given an opportunity when there are major hassles in a corporate. And everything is falling apart at the seams, and you get called in to come and fix up, just to be the scapegoat. And you're given this major packet, but essentially then you don't do women justice because you're thrown out.
I think we saw that at Deloitte when they got into the poo and then they put in a female CEO.
Yeah. But I want to, and I actually had this quote because I think, you know, the problem is that we always tell the stories of when women have not succeeded. So Brooke Moksiniak, they gave 2 examples of women that were brought in to actually turn companies around. So if you look at Johanna, who became Iceland's first female prime minister, and the world's first openly gay head of government and economic and political fallout from the global financial crisis, she later stabilized Iceland's economy in a relatively short period of time. So it doesn't mean to say that they get brought in and they don't do what they set out to achieve. The former Xerox CEO, Anne, is often deemed a glass cliff success story. She took over as CEO in 2001 as Xerox was on the verge of a Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And a year later, following an aggressive restructure, the company reported on an operating profit. Now, you can only do that if you've got what it takes.
Competence.
And that is the problem. If you're doing it just because of the money, you don't necessarily have what it takes. And you cannot stand your ground. You cannot bring the right team around you. You cannot bring the support structure. And so when the fat hits the fan, you take the fall because you don't have your support structure around you.
Absolutely. Now, Carl, the 30% club.
Yeah.
You and I were at a session where one of the ladies shouted from the top of her voice, we need to stop calling it the 30% club.
Yeah.
Now, in the book, you unpack how the 30% club came about and why it's 30% rather than 50%. Tell us the story.
Well, basically, the 30% is not a quota or a target that we're working towards. So I know even when we started it, one of the companies in South Africa turned around and said to us, why don't you call it the 50% club? We won't sign the agreement unless you call it the 50% club. The reality is it's got nothing to do with targets or quotas. It's got to do with research has proven that when a minority is able to affect the decisions of a majority, that is where you need the 30%, which is the tipping point. So as long as you've got 3 women in a group of 10, it's the level at which they can influence conversation, hence 30% club.
Indeed. Now, Carl, we need to feed some people, but before we feed them again, you have fantastic tips in your book. And I want us to maybe conclude our conversation with you sharing maybe your 3 tips. And there are many. There are so many, guys. There are tips that are just, they can be read by people in school and university. It's a beautiful book. What are your 3 top tips that you would like to give everybody? And I mean, you've given us the beauty of the book, but what are the 3 top tips you'd like to talk about?
So I quote Stephen Covey in my book, and in The 8th Habit. And one of the things he talks about is to find our voice.
Correct.
No matter how small it is, you know, and I think that is, you know, he says we were given magnificent birth gifts, talents, capacities, privileges, intelligences, opportunities that would remain largely opened, except through our own decision and effort. Because of these gifts, the potential within an individual is tremendous, even infinite. We really have no idea what a person is capable of. This is indeed one of our barriers to success, keeping quiet, never letting the world know who we are and what we know and what we've accomplished. Find your voice. So absolutely, for me, that is absolutely critical. Number 2, I think, you know, this whole thing of we've got the saying that we can multitask. As women, we can multitask. That just makes us super everything, which I don't know about you, I can't cope with it. And in order to grow our careers, we've got to remain so focused on where we're going and what we want to achieve. So for me, you know, when we start talking about, oh, we're superwoman, super wife, super whatever the case may be, and we can multitask, it really shows that we don't know really what we want to do. So that is the second thing. The third thing I think that is so critical is you cannot do it on your own. And so as you grow your career, find those role models, but find the role models, and I think, you know, even in terms of most corporates have got mentorship programs. But the mentorship programs, I think, need to be, number 1, be structured, not as ad hoc as we normally do them. They've got to be structured. It's got to be done on personality, because often, you know, you can only look up to somebody that you want to emulate. And so often we just put 2 people together because, oh, she's a more senior person than this person, and it's not really what you're looking to achieve and where you're looking to go. So I think that needs to be taken into account. But role models, and the right role models that we need to look for, not just the senior women. For me, that building of the role models at every every rung of the ladder is so important. Because essentially, as the junior women come in, they look at the most senior woman and say, will I ever get there? Or a
They're
number
afraid
of...
to talk to them.
Yeah. And so for me, that finding of mentors at every level and looking up to taking somebody junior, giving them 1 step up. That level, 1 step up, and building this ladder is so important.
Carl, you were very emotional when we started this conversation. I think I understand it because I've had the blessing and the opportunity to read the book. But how was the journey of putting together the book? Tell us the story. And also, tell us what you want people to take away from this.
Yeah.
And the journey of you having come this far, having your own book, put together from experiences from so many leaders around the globe in South Africa. You've learned so much. So how was the process of putting this together, and what do you want people to take away?
Yeah. So in Tumbi, I come from a family where my mom was always, whenever I was feeling down or I couldn't achieve something, my mom would say, "Oh, get yourself together. This isn't the way I brought you up. Sort yourself out. Let's get going." And that's what I want women to understand, is we can achieve it. Together with men, together with our support structure, we can achieve it. And to stop listening to the nonsense out there. Stop listening to I call it the mosquito out there. Take the book, use it as a workbook, look back on it, learn from it, share it, and just understand that there's so many people that are out there to help you along your journey. So for me, being emotional, it's been a 4-year journey. But for me, it's a blessing to know that I've got so many people in the support. I mean, for my team from Business Engage, I've put a note in the beginning of the book. So first of all, to my mom, for her, just the insights and the encouragement and the counsel that my mom gave me throughout my journey. That for me was important. For my husband, that's been the most amazing support. My kids and my team at Business Engage. It's a journey of all of us. It's not only my journey. I think everybody that's been part of Business Engage and what we've done knows we've achieved some amazing things. And I couldn't do it on my own. Yes, I mean, so many people say I'm the vision behind it, but vision without people to come along with you and to journey with you makes it very lonely. And so for me, this book is the result of many people that have walked the way, that have supported, that have been there, that have encouraged and been part of the journey.
I think we need to stand up and give Colleen a round of applause.
Thank you, Ntombi.
Okay, thank you. You can all sit down now. the men are back in control. And Tombi, my wife, thank you. To everybody, if you want to buy Cole's book, you're all going to get a copy anyway, or couples are all going to get a copy tonight anyway. If you want to get extra books, you can get from Jade Lee, who will have them available. And thank you. Just protocol, I didn't say earlier on that if you're looking for the toilets, down the passageway on the right-hand side, on the first one and the second one. So please have some more to drink, have some more to eat. We're here until 9 o'clock. And thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Ntombi.
You're welcome, Malcolm.
Love you so much.
Group hug. Group hug. Hang on.
Okay.
Let the man through. He wants to go to the bar. The man who wants to go to the bar.
You got it. Thank you. Is that long enough for you?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. I'm glad.
Was it good?
Guys, the soft drinks are in the office. The beers and the
Awesome.
wines are in the piano
Can I do
lounge.
one just with Ntombi?
Please help yourself.